Welcome to another episode of AutoMundial, the weekly car news and review show where this week we're looking at the all-new Fiat 500.
Plus, we have an electric SUV from Audi, a chic city car from Renault, and a baby AMG Merc.
That's all coming up. First though,
hybrid and electric vehicles have outsold diesel cars for the first time in Europe. Figures show that 1.3 million new cars were registered in Europe in September, with 327,000 of them being electrified, 5,000 more than diesels. This growth in market share from hybrids and EVs has eaten into petrol sales too, with the latter's share falling to 47% from 59%. 10 years ago, half of all cars sold in Europe were diesel-powered, but with increased taxes due to emissions putting prices up, and the financial benefits of driving electrified cars, it's easy to see why buyers are making the switch. So far this year, EVs have made up 6.6% of new cars registered in the UK, with hybrids making up a further 29%, according to the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders.
We've had SUVs, we've had electric SUVs, we've had SUV coupes, and now, inevitably, we've got an electric SUV coupe. It really was only a matter of time. This is the new Audi E-TRON Sportback, and it's a sleeker, sharper, meaner version of the regular car, an EV that we like very much. Audi has streamlined the roofline from the C-pillar backwards, hence the Sportback moniker. The swoopier shape isn't just all form and no function though. The sloping silhouette gives the Sportback a better drag coefficient, which ups the range by about 6 miles to 240 on a single charge. A marginal change, granted, but a forward step nonetheless. We can't imagine range would be your main reason for purchasing this model though, especially when it weighs over 2.5 tonnes. Other changes versus the e-tron include the optional virtual side mirrors, which further help to improve efficiency, mimicking periscopes that protrude from a sea of bodywork. As well as an efficiency boost, the Sportback also gets new headlights. We know the German marques love to pour their development into lighting technology, and Audi has equipped the Sportback with a set of digital matrix headlights. And just in case that didn't sound fancy enough, the lights also feature 1 million micro mirrors, with one able to tilt 5,000 times a second. The advantages of this seemingly over-the-top tech are actually very clever and safety sensitive. Some of the benefits include keeping your high beam out of incoming driver's sight and illuminating an individual motorway lane ahead of you, reducing glare to other road users. Incidentally, it also means that different lighting patterns can be illuminated when the car is unlocked. Climb inside and there's even more copy and paste, which in this case is certainly no bad thing. If you love fancy infotainment systems, there are no better cars in which to travel. There's a 12-inch digital display behind the steering wheel, a 12-inch main touchscreen in the dashboard, and another 8-inch touchscreen below that. The extra efficiency does come at a price though. There's about 20mm less headroom for rear passengers, and about 5% has been chopped off the boot versus the standard e-tron. Performance remains similar to the standard car, with 0 to 62 miles per hour dealt with in 5.2 seconds, thanks to its 402 horsepower and all-wheel drive system. However, as we've mentioned, there are plenty of electric SUVs to choose from, including this, the impressive Mercedes EQC.
Quite a handsome thing, we're sure you'll agree. The EQC represents the start of the brand's plan to release 10 new electric cars by 2022. At first glance, it may appear to be just a regular GLC, But look closer and you'll start to notice some of the Mercedes EQ range's signature details. There are some fibre optic strips of lighting, a smooth front grille panel and the solid light bar across the boot lid that seems to have been pinched from Porsche. Performance is on a par with the Audi, shaving off 1/10 of a second to 62 with 402 brake horsepower being sent through all four wheels. Its range is similar too, just beating the Audi at 259 miles.
In conclusion then, the E-TRON Sportback, like many coupe SUVs, doesn't really make a lot of sense. The Mercedes EQC and indeed the regular E-TRON still look great and are that little bit easier to live with every day. And best of all, they're cheaper.
When you think of the world's best-selling vehicles, the obvious contenders are the Toyota Corolla, the VW Beetle and the Honda Civic. They're global hits with iconic status and huge fan bases. But some bestsellers have slipped under the radar. Cars like this, the Renault Clio. Celebrating its 30th anniversary, the Clio is the definitive chic European supermini, always setting trends while remaining classless and excellent to drive. Since the launch of the original back in 1990, the little Renault has consistently sold in its millions. The previous model was in production between 2012 and 2019, but like almost no other car we can think of, it consistently increased its annual sales year on year. Incredible in a class where there's a seemingly constant stream of new models fighting to win buyers. As it stands, the Clio is currently the second best-selling car in Europe, beaten only by the evergreen Volkswagen Golf. It comes as no surprise then that the new Clio doesn't really look very new. At first glance, you might think that this is just a facelift of the old model. This is, however, an all-new car. While styling has clearly been borrowed from the old car, this new model is in fact a bit smaller. It's shorter and lower, but Renault has somehow managed to create more space inside. The new car doesn't actually share any parts with the old one, and the more you look at it, the more obvious the differences become. For starters, there are the C-shaped LED headlights, like you get on a Megane. Then you notice the cleaner lines, sharper bumpers, and the bigger alloy wheels. It's a smart-looking car, but the Clio always has been. In the past, though, the chic little Clio was always let down by a drab, cheap, plasticky interior. Thankfully, though, this new one is greatly improved. While you're not likely to confuse the cabin with that of a Rolls-Royce, the equipment is good, and it definitely looks a whole lot more modern. There are lots of nice, soft-touch materials, as well as nice shiny bits of plastic and aluminium trim. Dominating the dashboard, though, is the mammoth 9.3-inch tablet infotainment screen. Mounted portrait rather than the usual landscape, the screen is a smart addition angled slightly towards the driver. And thankfully, Renault hasn't got carried away with its functions. The heater controls, for example, are physical buttons under the screen rather than being hidden somewhere in a digital menu. The Clio gets a range of conventional petrol and diesel engines, starting with a 75 brake horsepower 1-litre petrol motor and topping out with a 129 brake horsepower 1.3. There's also a new hybrid option and a diesel for those looking to do long journeys. There are no plans for an electric version, with Renault simply stating that customers after an electric supermini can get a Zoe.
But if Renault wants the Clio to continue selling so well, it'll have to compete with this, the Volkswagen Polo. Now more than ever a baby Golf, the Polo has grown up. It looks very mature with its classy styling and mix of bold and subtle colour options. The VW badge now comes with some prestige too, making the Polo a premium rival in this class. Inside, it's a league above the Renault with excellent infotainment and typical VW build quality. There are some scratchy plastics though, as the Polo still does have to be affordable. However, Volkswagen does seem to have gone a bit mad with its trim levels. You can now spend mid-range Golf money on a Polo just to have some fancy trim and bigger alloys. You're definitely better off sticking to the more lowly specs, but it is worth splashing out for one of the more powerful engines, as entry-level motors can feel a little sluggish.
The Clio, though, not only undercuts the Polo on price, but we think it's more charming too. It has that typical Clio charm and styling that looks as at home on a busy Parisian street as it does parked outside a country chateau. Another sales success for Renault then? Absolutely.
Join us after the break as we check out the Mercedes-AMG CLA.
Coming up, the all-new Fiat 500. But first,
we all know that Mercedes likes a niche, but every now and then, from amongst Mercedes' vast lineup, one stands out. This is the CLA 35, an entry-level AMG version of the four-door coupe version of the A-Class. Sitting below the monstrous CLA 45, this somewhat more sensible version makes do with less power. But is this entry point into Affalterbach ownership worthy of its AMG badge? Well, the entire drivetrain has been carried straight over from the A35, Mercedes' answer to the Volkswagen Golf R, meaning it gets a turbocharged 2-litre engine producing 306 brake horsepower. As a result, it still feels properly quick, despite its low position in the AMG rankings. 0 to 62 miles per hour takes just 4.9 seconds thanks to the immense amounts of grip provided by the all-wheel drive system, giving you the confidence to really lean on it through the corners. Its diminutive size and responsive steering help you keep some serious momentum, while the optional adaptive suspension offers a surprisingly comfortable ride, even in its firmest setting. Sadly though, like the regular A35 hatchback, the noise is a little disappointing. It sounds sporty, but it isn't a particularly nice sound when compared to the unhinged 45 version. This though is an altogether more sensible everyday option. 90% of the time it's as docile and relaxing as a regular CLA. But every now and then, and when the mood strikes and the road is clear, it can squat down and go. But whether you're out for a blast or just on your commute, the CLA 35 remains a wonderful place in which to find yourself. It gets a bit more standard equipment than the hatchback version, like the 10-inch central infotainment screen and sports seats. Otherwise, it's a standard A-Class interior, with the gorgeous turbine air vents and fancy interior lighting. It really is like stepping into a baby S-Class, with gorgeous materials throughout and a real sense of quality. But it's on the outside where you'll notice the obvious differences from the hatchback. It's longer with a dramatic sloping roofline reminiscent of the bigger CLS, but while it may look rakish and on-trend, it does reduce the headroom for rear passengers and it can be a bit of a pain to get in and out of. Rather confusingly, there is also an A-Class saloon to fill yet another niche within the baby Benz's lineup, but our favourite version is this, the shooting brake. Effectively just an estate version, it offers all of the 35's performance, but with an extra dose of practicality thanks to its big boot.
However, the outgoing Golf R is also available as an estate. Like the CLA, the Golf makes use of a turbocharged 2-litre engine. However, since the WLTP regulations came in, power is down to 296 brake horsepower. That's still plenty of grunt in a Golf though, and as such the R sprints from 0 to 62 miles per hour in just 4.7 seconds, fractionally quicker than the Mercedes. Inside though, the Golf simply can't match the CLA's sense of occasion. It's beautifully built, but it's simply not as stylish or as luxurious. But with the new Mark 8 Golf already hitting showrooms, VW has confirmed that we can expect a new Golf R very soon. For now though, the outgoing car is still a great buy. The performance is deeply impressive, and its classless image is a real selling point for many more discreet buyers.
The Mercedes CLA though is as much about head turning as it is about neck snapping. It's a great looking car, and for the fashion conscious, the small premium over the hatchback is certainly worth it. And happily, it doesn't feel like the A45's poor relation, but instead a genuinely capable, marginally slower, cheaper alternative. Us though, we'll take the shooting brake.
The city car is dead. That's what we keep being told. Tiny hatchbacks are dying out thanks to slim profit margins and increasingly stifling emissions legislation. And while some manufacturers are soldiering on with their budget models, they tend to be mildly updated versions of cars that have been in production for years. The Panda, for example, and the Volkswagen Up. So finally, we're starting to see some electric city cars appearing. And this is perhaps the most important one we'll see this year, the new Fiat 500 EV. Incredibly, it's been 13 years since we were first introduced to the 21st century's Cinquecento, and since then, it's only ever received minor updates. This electric version then represents the 500's first big shake-up since its launch in 2007. In fact, the changes are so substantial, Fiat is calling this new version the third generation, following on from its predecessor and the original model of the 1950s. It has a new platform, resulting in slight increases in width and length, as well as an extra 20mm in the wheelbase. That said, this is still a proper city car, measuring comfortably under 4 metres in overall length. But for those wanting a little extra practicality, left-hand drive markets will also get a 4-door version called the 3+1. Similar to the old Mini Clubman's asymmetrical door arrangement, the 3+1 gets an extra door on the right-hand side of the car to make getting in and out of the back a little easier. Thankfully, with the 500 now possessing a real cult following, Fiat hasn't mucked about too much with the styling. In fact, on first sight, you might not realise you're looking at a new car at all. It's as cute and retro as ever, but look a bit closer and there are plenty of changes. The whole front end has been redesigned to look closer to the original air-cooled models. The headlights now look quite futuristic, with some illuminated eyebrows on the bonnet, making it look quite angry. The other big change is the lack of Fiat badge, with a simple 500 logo taking its place on the nose. The chunky chrome door handles have been replaced by some upmarket inset ones, while at the back there's a new bumper and some updated tail lights. On launch, the 500 will only be available as a soft top, giving it a unique place in the electric car market, but a hardtop version will follow. And while we're sure a petrol-powered version will arrive at some point, those wanting a more traditional powertrain will still be able to buy the existing 500, soon to be rebranded as the Classic for the foreseeable future. Powering the retro-futurist EV is a 117 brake horsepower electric motor that silently thrusts the little Fiat from 0 to 62 in 9 seconds, topping out at 93 miles per hour. More impressive, though, is its 199-mile range, more than enough for a city runabout. There are 3 driving modes to choose from. Normal mode is designed to replicate driving an internal combustion car. Range mode increases the regenerative braking, and Sherpa saves as much energy as possible by limiting top speed to 50, softening the throttle response, and disabling the heated seats and climate control.
But the Fiat 500 isn't the only retro EV to hit the market this year. The Honda E is possibly even cuter. It's bigger than the 500, but it's still aimed squarely at urban driving with an impressive turning circle and a disappointing 137-mile range. It looks great though, especially inside where Honda has really gone to town with all those screens. But all this tech comes at a high price. So could this be a better option? The Smart 4 has been around for a while now, but with Chinese company Geely recently taking a 50% stake in the brand, it is now electric only. Still based on the rear-engined Renault Twingo, the EQ44 uses an 80 brake horsepower electric motor to drive the rear wheels. It's also had some styling tweaks, although it won't be troubling the Fiat in any beauty contests.
So while many manufacturers are beginning to wind down city car production, Fiat, Honda and Smart are paving the way for the future of urban driving.
Join us again next week on AutoMundial as we look at an all-new hot hatch, the Hyundai i20N.